I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Greenfield Conservation Commission at 6:31, July 23rd, 2024. Commissioners present include Erica, Kristen, Travis,
Yep.
and Emily. Am I supposed to wait for you all to say aye and confirm that you're here, or do we all just take it on faith that I'm not lying?
Usually we take it on faith, but you can do a roll call. We could go around and say that we're here. It's up to you.
I think since we got everybody on video, we can skip that. This meeting is being held virtually. Should any technical interruption to the meeting occur and the meeting is suddenly ended, it will not be resumed and all items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. For those of you who weren't with us last meeting, please bear with me. This is my first official full meeting as the chair, so I'm learning as I go. And Travis or Mitchell, please feel free to jump in and nudge me if I'm missing something here. I believe our first order of business is to approve the minutes from last meeting. Does anybody on the commission want to make a motion to approve the minutes from July 9th, 2024?
Before you do that, we are supposed to let people know that we're recording, and if anyone else is recording, they have to tell them they have to tell you that.
Gotcha. So, as Travis said, this meeting is being recorded by the Conservation Commission. If any of you present are also recording, you are required to notify me at this time, please. Hearing nothing from the audience. Yes, so please, moving back on to the minutes, if we can have a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from July 9th.
Thank you.
2024.
I'll second that. And I do have an item of discussion on that, which is that it still says Travis Drury chair on there, so that needs to be changed. Both in the top right, or wait, that meeting? Yeah, that's the meeting that you became chair. So at the very top right, it says Travis Drury chair, and then at the bottom where it says respectfully submitted, it says Travis Drury. So that should say Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you for catching that. And are there any other comments for the discussion around that? Nope. Okay. So Travis, in the instance of requiring amendments to the minutes.
Yeah. So technically, it should be the amendments should be a friendly amendment to the motion, and then I would say that that's like a friendly amendment to the motion, and then the person who made the motion has to agree to that, and then we can vote on it. So technically, that's how it should be done.
A friendly amendment has been made to the motion. Erica, do you agree?
I agree.
Thank you. And then we can vote on that.
Then we vote on it, yeah.
Okay. All right, so motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting, July 9th, 2024. Kristen.
Abstain.
Emily.
Aye.
Erica.
Aye.
Travis.
Okay.
I'm also an aye. So next up, we have some technical difficulties on the end of the chair, who has for some reason been booted out of their account to be able to view the agenda. Mitch, do you, can you step in and direct?
Yeah, so I think next is public comment. So no discussion or comments will be entertained unless requested upon by the chairperson of the board or committee. So if we want public comment, we can do that now.
That sounds great. Yes. Open, if the public hearing, we do have open to public comment. Are there any comments from the public? I notice a few folks here. I'm not. Hearing no comment from the public at this point, I believe is the moment to close the public comments and then move on. And again, I am still trying to get back into my agenda that's on my Google Drive. If somebody has it available, that's gonna
Next is and hearings. A public hearing. Request for determination. Sewage disposal. 85 Wood Ave 26 law. And the project proposed of the existing sewage, including the pump and leach field. For that.
Mitch,
don't know if-
you're a little choppy. There's a request for a determination of applicability at 85 Woodard Road. Is there anybody here to present that?
Thanks. Internet is unstable.
I'm having trouble hearing, but this is Sean Kimberly. I'm the designer of the septic system in question, and we'll answer any questions, or if you want a brief overview.
I think a brief overview would be appropriate. Does the commission agree?
Yeah, maybe if Mitch could bring up the materials while we're getting the overview.
Mhm.
All right. So this plan is for an existing 4-bedroom home located on Woodard Road. It's a difficult site in that it's a small lot, and it is pinned in between the road and this wet area that's over the bank from the home. I have used an approved alternative technology, advanced technology system, which is a Presby system to get better treatment. I also placed a poly barrier 5 feet from the proposed leach field, and silt fence along the top of the bank to keep any sediments from going over the bank during installation. The owner is Georgiana Wiles, who I believe has lived here for quite a period of time. The site conditions are such that the only place without retaining walls and extreme added expense is in the location I have it. As we head to the north, the wetland actually comes closer in toward the road, and the plumbing in this house is pretty difficult that we did look in to see if we could turn the direction, but they're actually to combine right now I believe the washing machine goes out to its own, we'll call it a leach pit that has to be connected to the new system. So the proposed system is a new septic tank, a pump chamber, which will pump it up to the Presby leach field. It is a raised system caused by the groundwater elevation, which was at 54 inches. There was a 10-minute perk, which was witnessed by Michael Thoreau, and I received an email last week that stated that he'd reviewed the plans and that they were good to go as far as the Board of Health is concerned. I did offer sediment barrier options of either the filter sock or the silt fence. Of course, if you have a preference, you can let me know, or the contractor, which I don't think has been selected yet. I believe they were getting prices. Difficult site. I'm not sure if there's been a site visit or not, but it's right next to the radio station, and there's where it says the brick building that's sort of toward the road is part of I believe the AM station of the WHAI or the Outlaw or whichever radio station is at that facility.
Mitch, I just unmuted myself to ask if you could go through the site visit photos. Thanks.
Is it still kind of choppy?
What you just said there sounded fine.
Okay. So yeah, I think the erosion controls are planned from the shed kind of along the slope. This would be the work area. And the wetland is just down the slope down here.
So it looks pretty obvious that all of the work would be outside of wetland
Right.
area, just in the lawn.
It is in the lawn area. Yeah, and you are looking exactly at where the leach field would go, and the tanks would be on the left toward the house.
What did you say was there now? Is there a leach field now, or, I mean,
Well,
where-
there's a tank, and then from what Bosley, she is selling she hopes to sell the home, and so they did a Title V inspection, and they found a septic tank, which is just off the corner of where the existing septic tank is, but they didn't find anything beyond that. They think there must be either some sort of stone cesspool or a leach pit heading toward the property line. This little triangular piece that looks kind of sort of in back of the brick building actually got added at a later time than the original parcel. So it was fortuitous that they actually added that in the past, because it did give me enough room to fit it in.
so you're gonna replace the tank and you're gonna take out the old ones? Are you gonna take out both of them? Are there two in there now? I mean,
Normally, what they would do is, if they have to remove it, they'll remove it. If they don't, they pump it, crush it, and fill it on site with native material. If the tank has to go in the exact same spot, then they would remove the tank and dispose of it properly.
Is there going to be any stockpiling of soil anywhere on the site?
I don't see any reason that it would. They would. There was 2 large pine trees out at the edge of the street that I believe the town took down just recently, which has enabled them. They're going to be able to back the trucks in I would say next to this, between the concrete pad and the fence. And I see no reason other than they'll stockpile the topsoil so that they can place that back over the field when it's done. That would be the only stockpiling. The rest of the material would get put in place is right off the truck.
Okay,
But they would
thanks.
be stockpiling the topsoil unless they just don't have enough room to put it here, and then they would have to take it and then bring it back. Which always it costs more money. But there is a limited area, unless they're able to stockpile it up by the concrete pad and still be able to get the tanks in. It's a very congested site.
Yeah, I was just asking because I know, you know, a lot of times if people are stockpiling soil, we want to make sure there's erosion control between where the stockpile is and the resource area. And
Yeah,
the wetland.
they would certainly not, if they were to stockpile it anywhere, it would be on this same side, which would be the same silt fence would keep anything from the stockpile from getting into the resource area as well.
Okay, thanks.
The best thing would be for the town to run the sewer down here, but my guess is they're not going to do this anytime.
Sean, I just had a couple of questions about the resource area boundaries. I just wanted to confirm that this hasn't actually been delineated. You're just going by the statewide estimated mapping, right?
The Mass GIS, and again, if you look over the bank, you can see the what appears to be wetlands. It is a very steep bank from past the sediment barrier down toward this wet area, and this wet area goes all the way from in back of. I would say that's Davenport's trucking. It's a rather large. If you look on the Mass GIS, it's a large area.
Yep. And then also, we're just sort of estimating that you're out of riverfront, but there's no confirmation of the mean annual high, right?
I don't see the mean annual high would be from the
Green River. to
Green
east.
River, which from the back edge of the property, again, using the shows up as 264 feet from the actual point of the property line, which you can't quite see on the plan because it's just past the right of the my plot box, but it does appear to be outside of the 200 foot. The house, if I can clear this. From the back edge of the house to the river, says 311 feet. Again, that's Mass GIS. So.
Yeah, the only reason I bring that up is because if you were in riverfront and you were replacing septic, there are different performance standards. But I think if you're out, and this, I agree, I know that we're just looking at statewide estimated spatial data layers and they're not perfect.
Yep.
But I do think that the river is pretty clear on the ortho photo.
I would imagine during flooding periods, it does not up on her plane, but this wetland probably does get submerged. If Davenport's, I believe I read in the paper that they have flooding issues there, so I would imagine it would flood. But the mean annual high water mark appears to be 300 feet away, more or less.
Mitch, I'm just wondering if you have the special conditions from the last project we had that was similar to this. And maybe we could just talk about those and see if we could just
Yeah,
reuse
let me
that.
go find those.
Okay. And just for Elizabeth, because this is a public meeting and not a public hearing, there's no public comment period required on this project, but you could open it to the public to comment if once conservation commissioners' questions are pretty much answered.
In terms of
We just said any, sorry, go ahead.
in terms of historical precedent, during the meetings, would you normally open up a project of this nature to public comment?
Yeah, I mean, usually I would just see if there are people in the meeting who haven't said anything, and it looks like maybe there are people. I mean, they might be here for other projects, but yeah, generally I just ask if if the public has any input too.
Right.
I just figure, when I was chair, I just figured like the more the public has the ability to comment, the better,
Gotcha.
even if it's not required.
Makes sense. Mitch, you were gonna say something?
Fill shall be clean fill for the annual pond.
So that was the only special condition we had.
Right, because it wasn't any.
Oh, Mitch, you just cut out there. You said there wasn't any, and that's all I
There
heard.
wasn't any stockpiling.
Oh, okay.
Are there any further questions from the commission?
I guess I'm wondering, I know Sean was saying either silt fence or, I don't know if anyone on the commission has a specific erosion control that they would prefer.
I guess, my question would be, if there would be stockpiling, how high would the pile be? How long would the pile be there? And how close to the resource area would it be?
The stockpiling of the topsoil would be the area of the leach field, which is 32 feet by 16.5 feet, which is 520 something square feet, and it would be 9 inches deep. So I am just guessing that would condense into a pile that would be 10-foot square and 5 feet high. And the only place they would be able to put it would be up by that concrete pad. So it would actually be further away than the fill they're putting in place.
And how long would it be on site for?
Well, it would be the length that it would take to put the system in, because they would strip it first, pile it, install the system, then cover the system back up with this topsoil. I would say 3 or 4 days. It does depend on who puts it in, but I could see this taking 3 or 4 days, a week at the most.
Okay. So
Is
we're
this-
thinking, sorry, go ahead,
Sorry.
Eric.
I was just gonna say, is this under kind of a rush because she wants to try and sell, or, can they look for, we usually ask them to look for, not rainy time to do it.
I have not heard that they have a buyer. I'm not sure who else is on the call. If her realtor is on the call or not, she would be able to answer that, or if Mrs. Wiles is on. But they haven't been hounding me, so I don't know. And I think the contractors do try to look ahead and for good weather. They do get trapped with these thunderstorms in the afternoons and stuff.
If I may I?
Please, yes.
Yeah, I'm Susan Renfrew. I'm with Renfrew Real Estate, and my partner is going to be, or is the realtor for Georgiana Wiles, and I'm covering this meeting for her. Yes, the whole purpose of doing this is to prepare to go on the market, and it has taken some time because of the time it takes to do these things and engineer them and get in front of these meetings and so forth. So I wouldn't say it's a rush, but it is absolutely her intent to go on the market. And, this has already taken a good part of the summer. So she would like to get it going. And she is in the process of getting estimates and is waiting to move forward. Yes.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions from the commission? Any members of the public have any questions or comments? Hearing none. I'm going to ask for some support from the more seasoned commission members here in terms of we are making a determination. And my understanding is that we are making a positive determination.
So a positive determination would mean that we think there is going to be an impact to a resource area and they would be required to do an NOI. So a negative determination is actually the good one if you haven't.
I know, I don't know why it's like backwards.
Yeah. So I would actually I'll go ahead and make a motion to make a negative determination type 3, which is that the work described in this request is within the buffer zone as defined by the regulations, but will not alter areas subject to protection under the act. Therefore, the work does not require the filing of a notice of intent subject to any conditions that we come up with. And this is a motion for the Wetlands Protection Act and the Greenfield Wetlands Ordinance.
So you can make, I'm sorry, I'm just asking for an administrative clarification. So this
Sure.
is for both the ordinance and the Wetlands Protection Act. We don't have to vote twice?
I think if it's the same jurisdiction, the same conditions, I think we can just do it for
Okay.
both.
Okay, and that doesn't say anything about approving the line. It's just,
No.
Okay.
No.
I'll second that.
So my understanding of this is the motion has been made and seconded, and any further discussion around the matter?
I think just the conditions like clean fill and try to not do it during a monsoon.
Yeah,
And,
Yeah,
and some sort of silt fence or other erosion control, yes?
yeah, we didn't discuss what we recommend, or do we want to leave that up to the contractor?
I think one way
Maybe
we've
we
done
should
it
give
in
him. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, we
I
were
was
gonna
gonna
say
say-
the same thing. We
Yeah.
in the past we've said, either this or this, or whatever, give like a list of a few examples and say like any of those would work.
Usually I'm pretty lenient on stuff like this. I like to say just straw wattles because it's cheaper, it's easier to install, it's easier to decommission. That is a high stockpile. So I don't know. What do you other commissioners think?
I mean, I know he proposed silt fence, so
Mhm.
I mean,
I think just because it's so small and so steep that if it does get over, it's just going to run right down into it. So
yeah,
yeah,
I think you
something a
need a
little
good
bit.
barrier.
Silt fence and straw wattles? or straw bales or just silt fence?
I would say, I don't know, silt fence or straw wattles. If it was a big enough wattle.
I like both personally. If you're gonna do silt fence, it's kind of not that functional if you don't have, I mean, for erosion controls anyways.
Given the severity of rain events that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, I think that being more robust in the erosion control would make more sense to me.
Hmm.
And somebody had said the wattles plus the silt fence. I think that seems reasonable.
So wattles or bales? What are we saying here?
I guess that could be a question for Sean too, if one of those seems more practical on site.
Uh,
If they're
most of the time they use the wattles, and silt fence. I haven't seen them use hay bales, probably because hay bales are getting so expensive. They can, it's actually cheaper to do the silt fence. I've had people, other conservations, sometimes they want 2 layers of silt fence. So, whatever you come up with, um, is fine.
yeah, I think I guess silt fence plus wattle sounds good to me.
Sean, can you just make sure the wattles are staked down and not just kind of, because wattles are really light. You know, if you threw
Yes.
one in a pond, it would float. So just make sure they're staked down.
That can be part of our condition
I
too.
was gonna say, yeah.
Yep. I'll pass it on to the whoever the installer will be.
Conditions are set. Any further comment?
Just to make sure, so we said clean fill, erosion controls. Did we say work on a dry day?
I don't
And
know.
then-
I don't think we really
Mhm.
settled on
Yeah.
anything with that. Because I know for the last one, we were
I think
talking
Erica
about
had suggested that we shoot for a forecast that's as dry as possible.
Yeah, I was gonna say to the best of their ability. Mm.
yeah, and I think in the past, we've said things like, not starting the project if there's a certain amount of rain in the forecast. Because I think like what once they start digging, if it's going to rain the next day, like
Yeah.
there's not much you can do about that. Like if it wasn't forecasted originally.
And I think if we've also said that, if a lot of rain is predicted, that the stockpile needs to be covered, so that it try to
Yeah,
minimize its.
Yeah.
I wrote down some conditions. I looked at some past projects, just the kinds of conditions we did for kind of similar things. And I wrote down some that we did for stockpiling.
Yeah, maybe I mean it doesn't seem likely that a stockpile is going to be out for an extended period of time, but we could include a blanket condition, if there's unstable soil stockpiled for a period of, I don't know, 14 days. Something happens, whether it's seeded and mulched or encircled with secondary containment, like Erica just said, a tarp or something. I don't know.
I think this top one makes sense. All stockpiles should be covered whenever rain is forecasted to exceed a quarter of an inch in 24 hours.
Covered with like a tarp.
I assume that's what that means.
Hmm.
So are we adding cover if rainfall forecast exceeds 1/4 inch? And we're requesting specifically a tarp?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And it will be encircled with a wattle so that soil won't migrate. I think that was the second one on that list.
You mean having it specifically circled, not just the between the work site and the wetland, but also the stockpile would have another wattle around it.
I guess that was a question for if it was over a certain period of time, like if it's going to be there for
Oh,
a
I see.
certain number of weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, it seems unlikely in this case, but
Yeah, I don't get the sense that there's gonna be a lot of sitting around in terms of
Mhm.
completion of project. I get the sense that once it's started, not only are they incentivized by the client to get the project done, but they're incentivized by not wanting to draw out the things that we're talking about right now. So I don't know if we have a precedent for setting a time limit on such a project, if that could mitigate concerns around additional wattles around the pile, or if there are some other course of action that historically has been taken by the commission to.
Seems difficult to limit the amount of time because you just can't predict what's going to come up. If there's concerns, maybe we could say that if there is going to be a delay over 2 weeks or something, then at that point we want to have the encircling of the
Additional.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Do
mean,
we-
it doesn't hurt to have a condition that may not get used,
Mhm.
in an unlikely scenario.
is it overkill to have these as just our boilerplate conditions so that we don't need to like,
Well, there's not always stockpiles, I guess. So I guess we'd have to have conditions like if stockpile is present, you know.
yep.
So I don't know. So are we adding stockpile encircled with straw wattle if present for
Over
more
7
than 2
days or
weeks?
2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
So Mitch, do you want to give a rundown of the conditions that we've settled on, or has everybody made the comments and asked the questions that they feel like they have at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Mitch, could you give us a quick bullet point of the conditions for this?
I think we have clean fill shall be used, silt fence and stake straw wattle shall be installed. And then work shall only be started when rain over quarter of an inch is not forecasted. All stockpiles shall be covered whenever rain is forecast in 24 hours. Or compost filter tube shall be used around soil stockpiling if stockpiling is left over.
Thank you. So you got
I think the last part
Copyright.
cut out.
a
but-
little choppy there, but I think we cut everything.
How long were we saying for the stockpiling?
It had been suggested 7 days or 2
7
weeks,
days?
but I think 7 days. Yeah. Okay. Barring further comment, I think we can vote on this particular motion. Yes. Okay. Erica.
Aye.
Aye. Kristen.
Aye.
Emily. Ms. Frozen. Oh. There you are.
I
Thank you. Travis.
Aye.
And I am also an aye. Okay. Am I missing any official closing of that particular?
I think I would usually just wrap it up by saying, the motion passes, so we'll be issuing a negative determination. I think you're supposed to say that there's a 10-day waiting period where you're not supposed to do any work within 10 days because it can be appealed within those 10 days. And otherwise Mitch will be in touch with the paperwork.
Okay, thank you, Travis. Okay, next item of business. We have Stephanie Duclos has been added to the agenda for this meeting, with concerns around Art Street and Chapman Street flooding issues.
Is that what's next?
That's what it's got in on my other business list here in the email, unless I'm just missing something.
That's for the request for a certificate of compliance. Yeah, Chapman Street and Arch
Oh,
Street.
no, you're right. I'm sorry. Yep. Request for certificate of compliance, 15 Greenfield Street parking lot construction, DEP number 1680353. Contractor stated that the approved seed mix was used. We discussed this at the last meeting and decided to place it on this agenda before approving it.
Real quick, so I wasn't here at the last meeting. Am I forced to recuse myself from this discussion as well, Mitch?
No, it really wasn't like a public meeting or
Okay.
anything. We just kind of did a quick update on where we were.
Yeah, I think the meeting part of this actually starts right now.
We wanted to wait until it was on the agenda. Yeah, the contractor just said yes, that's what was used was the seed mix that was approved.
I think that was like the only thing we were really
That
waiting
was on
for.
one. Yeah.
These are not determinations, but
I'll pull up the ongoing conditions.
mhm. There we go.
So yeah, 70, 72 through 78, which is kind of all our standard ones.
I feel like we had this contention before, but could you, number 74. Oh, within the wetlands, never mind, disregard.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 15 Greenfield Street, DEP file number 1680353 with ongoing conditions numbers 70 and 72 through 78.
Second.
Are there is there any further discussion around this particular certificate of compliance? Hearing none.
Actually, I just have a quick question. So again, I wasn't here last week, but there was some discussion about the seed mix and whether it was the appropriate seed mix. How did we establish it was the appropriate seed mix?
Mitch contacted the people in charge of this whole project, and they confirmed that they did in fact use the seed mix that had been designated previously.
Did we get
They
a
sent-
photo of the seed tag or this is the receipt?
Yeah, Mitch, I think you got a photo,
Okay.
right?
I'll show you what I have. I have this from the contractor. This is the approved seed mix that we used.
Can you maybe zoom in a little bit on that? Yeah, thanks.
Oh. I like it.
Yeah, sorry, Kristen. We did look at that last time.
Okay, sorry. I didn't want to vote if I hadn't seen the
Yeah,
receipt.
yeah.
No.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Okay. Vote Erica.
Aye.
To Kristen.
Aye.
I'm
Elizabeth,
clearly having technical issues on my end of things. Rose, I caught Erica.
Oh, I also said aye.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry,
then you kind of
I-
froze, so.
Yeah, okay, so there's clearly town-wide internet concerns going on, but at any rate, Emily.
Aye.
Travis,
aye.
I'm also an aye. The motion passes.
Oh yeah, and I think technically you're supposed to say like how many votes, like, oh, if it passes unanimously or this many
Yes,
votes to that many votes, or
yes, the motion for the certificate of compliance at 15 Greenfield Street passes unanimously. Okay. Now,
have
now
to-
we're ready for.
I have to tell you, I thought those were the same. Those two lines were together. So when you said Stephanie Bilkos, I was like, yeah, totally. I was on the same
Yeah,
page
that
as
makes
you.
perfect sense. Well, I apologize for the false start, Stephanie. But now, if you'd like to bring your concerns to the meeting, we'd welcome you to do so.
Hi, thank you. Stephanie Duclos, 166 Chapman Street. I want to thank you for adding me to the agenda. I've had severe water concerns, flooding issues, sewer water, possibly sewerage, and all kinds of toxins coming from the factories and the railroad because of the illegal impervious surfaces in this area that were unpermitted and filled culverts. So that I know actually existed for a very long time until perhaps the last maybe 20, 30 years, at which some point the city, I don't know if they were aware that it had gotten filled or if they were participating in that abandonment of that area, but we recently had a geyser of sewer water due to a break in a pipe on a piece of land across the street from me. And every single time it rains, anything more than a sprinkle, we get flooded in our homes. From anywhere from the entire basement, losing every, you know, the contents of all of their home at the corner there at 159. That is right, abuts the prior culvert. And all that backside is designated as city property. And I know that one of my neighbors up the road had to go through the Conservation Commission with conditions set by the Conservation Commission about erosion control being in the area of something under your purview. And he had foundation work. So I don't really know, you know, I know that we're trying to protect the, you know, the groundwater infiltration. We've had tie and bond out here quite often. We've also had several, there was a prior environmental study that was done, I want to say in 1994 of this area. My concern is a lot of the construction of that 6 arch and 1 arch place buildings predated the Wetlands Protection Acts. And so recently that area was trenched. We've had significant sinkholes in this area since then. And I smell toxins and petroleum products, which would make sense seeing as how 6 Arch was at one time an auto body garage. That also the cleanup would have predated the wetlands protections. So I don't know what the purview of the Conservation Commission is. If is it you know, the water? Is it the species? Is it you know, what your purview is, and where do I go if I have these concerns? Because it's not just my concern. I mean, there's documentation that has been sent to the city quite often from several of my neighbors. They either just don't know how to reach out, you know, to what commission, or to you know, how to get satisfaction, you know, when we're constantly pumping water out of our basements in this area. And you know, it's not like we can't even solve the problem until the problem of the impervious surfaces, which affect our groundwater and the flooding in this area, have been mitigated. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say. And I really want to thank Mitchell for coming out and taking a look at this area and listening to some of the history of it. Thank you.
I'm looking at this on Mass Mapper, and first of all, Stephanie, I'm so sympathetic to your problems. It's not just your problems, it's all of our problems. This is our city, and that this is awful. I'm so sorry about this. But it looks like there are no jurisdictional wetlands mapped. That doesn't mean that there aren't any there. There just aren't any mapped, and it's not in the riverfront. But my recommendation is, 1, if there are clogged culverts, that's a DPW issue, right? And 2, if there's contamination, that's an EPA issue. So that's my 2 cents.
So we found on the I think it was the open space documents that were out, we've been added Arch Street and Chapman because we're in a flood hazard area. So if FERCog is aware and they're already, you know, it's already been studied in this area, I don't know, you know, what's the next step.
That's a really good point. I didn't look at BLSF, and you're right. FERCog is an awesome resource. Let me pull up a FEMA format really quick, because you might be in BLSF, which is jurisdictional under the Conservation Commission. So, Mitch, did you already, is that what this is? Who's sharing?
It's not me.
Sorry, I was trying, the button to
That's-
unmute myself went away,
Oh.
and I couldn't find it. This is the city's GIS website thing that they use. And there is this it's like an intermittent stream over here. It doesn't show up on Mass Mapper.
Yeah.
But
How far is that
there is
from that
the
intersection?
Hold on. So oops, that was the wrong button. That's why someone further up the street had to have their project permitted. Um, this
And unfortunately, we
measure-
don't have spatial data for bordering land subject to flood or the 100-year floodplain, but we do have paper maps. So I'm just digging into that really quick, Stephanie.
I mean, this is 200 feet right here.
Ah, you're not in VLSF. Crap. Does that do anything?
I mean, it gets to like the edge of this property, but yeah, I don't know. And so also on this map, the green is the sewer lines and the orange are the storm sewer. And I believe
Yeah. Sorry,
Oh,
they actually, there are storm drains on the property, that are on Arch and, behind my home. Actually, it's directly behind 162 Chapman. There's also a storm drain. So those
oh, there's
things,
this one.
they flood and then, we have swimming pools of water in our backyards.
Are they flooding
Yeah.
because they're clogged or just because the water table is so high?
They may even be collapsed. The water's coming up from it's not that it's clogged. It's literally bubbling up like geysers, basically, of water bubbling from the ground. The water it's so saturated back here.
Yeah, and part of the problem is this is like a large dip in
Yeah.
elevation. So it's like super low right there.
That's gotta be historic too, right? I mean, that arch, isn't that? Let me pull that up on Mass Mapper.
Elizabeth, I do see someone has their hand
Yeah, I
raised.
was about to say, Ryan, you've got your hand up. You have something to say, please? Meeting attendee with the screen name of Ryan Whitney has their hand up. Do you have a comment to make or a question to ask?
And you're muted, by the way, if you're
Yeah, I
trying
was
to
gonna say
speak right now.
possibly. Needs to unmute.
While we
We
wait for
are not
Ryan, I
able
just
to
wanna,
hear Stephanie now.
so the Arch Bridge is an inventory property identified by Mass Historic Commission.
Yeah, and that's
It's-
in need of repair. At least I think it is. There's a lot of erosion of a lot of the dirt that holds the rocks underneath the arch, where water runs off from, down from wells. It all pools and it's now creating a problem in that arch area where Ryan Whitney, my partner, was helping to push a car out of the floodwaters. Maybe everybody saw it on Facebook, maybe they didn't, but that was, us trying to. This is a constant thing for us in this area, and I know because of the factory and when they did the expansion when Amtrak came through, when we expanded the Vermonter, they took out all the trees that were on the right of way, that I imagine all the greenery and the trees would help mitigate, what is, the pollution coming off the tracks, via air and soil erosion. And then it all literally trenches down into the groundwater. There's a cover on the property where it's a groundwater overflow pipe, I think, and then the water and everything that they pick up all along the the impervious surfaces goes right back into the groundwater. And I'm sure the tie and bond reports probably reflect there's a lot of lead, a lot of other toxins that probably shouldn't be in our groundwater. And so, I've been kind of screaming at the rooftops for about, I don't know, 9 months now. Going, something's got to be done about this. And the waters are getting worse. So, I don't know. Thanks.
Yeah, and I guess one thing I would add, since you asked about like our jurisdiction, essentially, I mean, it's a little complicated, but essentially our jurisdiction is any surface water, any streams, any wetlands. Unfortunately, we don't have jurisdiction over any groundwater resources or storm drains. So unfortunately, that's kind of outside of anything we can do. I mean, to me, this essentially sounds like a DPW issue, and their storm drains and their sewers are not properly conveying the water away from where they should be. And so it sounds like the city needs to do some sort of, study on like what could be done to improve the storm drains and improve, if there are any sewer issues in that area. Oh, what's this here?
I'll also add that it's not listed as an AUL site, which is hazardous material site. So anything that's been documented as being hazardous has to be registered. And that's not popping up in that neighborhood. So that's fishy.
Yeah, I see. It looks like Ryan's sharing something. I think Ryan's been muted the whole time, so we haven't heard anything from him.
He'll speak under mine.
Stop that. Mute it. Hi, that document I just shared, it's from the open space map, and it shows that it's like talking about the floodplains and whatnot like that. And at the next page, I don't know where the picture is from the next page because I don't do the Zoom meeting that often. But on the next page of that, it shows the designated areas, and Arch Street is one of the designated areas of a very high flood concern. So I think it would be under your purview under that aspect, because it's man-made flood or not. Just because it's not a river or anything, it's becoming a space of water because of whatever man-made impervious spaces, but it is designated under like an emergency, and it's in the highest one because we flood every single year.
It's not in a jurisdictional resource area though. Even though it does flood.
If I can comment, Stephanie, you came and spoke with the Sustainable Greenfield Task Force 2 months ago, I think. And at the time, we referred you, I think, mostly to DPW and just a little update. I think you were there at our meeting yesterday, but one of the top priorities that we found that we probably would be trying to find ways to address was to do some kind of inventory of stormwater flows and areas that need mitigation, particularly through like natural means like tree planting and so on. But it's possible that your testimony could be helpful in that process, as to help identify this area of town as one that should be addressed. So that group can't probably fix what's the problem, but we can maybe help raise awareness about your area along with others in the town through that study or whatever it is that we're able to do.
The other thing too is if anything in the future would come up in that general area, we'll be able to remember that there's poor drainage and, to put extra scrutiny on stormwater management. If it's further to the east where that intermittent stream is that Travis showed earlier on his screen, if it's within our jurisdiction and we actually get a chance to review an application, we'll be able to remember this. And same with the planning board, because they deal with everything, not just whether or not it's in a resource area. So I think it's wise to go out and tell everybody who will listen about this problem.
Thank you. I've been doing that. Thank you so much.
I keep muting myself. I was just going to clarify on our jurisdiction. So there is one thing under our jurisdiction that says land subject to flooding, but it's very specific, and this is what it has to be an area with low flat topography adjacent to and inundated by waters rising from creeks, rivers, streams, ponds, or lakes. It extends from the bank of these waterways to and water bodies. So unfortunately, that doesn't allow us to have jurisdiction over areas where like a storm drain is causing flooding.
Unless that's
if
in
it,
the bylaw. Some bylaws
I
do
don't think it
extend
is.
that, but ours does not. And so basically BLSF is the 100-year floodplain and it's not in the 100-year floodplain.
Yeah. So unfortunately that even though there is a thing called, subject to flooding, it has to be flood waters rising from a stream and then spreading out from that stream. Unfortunately.
I think the Groton bylaw widens that definition out more. I don't know, it's either Groton or I think it's Groton.
In the chat, Stephanie mentioned the intermittent stream that's across the street. And we had looked at the 200 feet from that, Stephanie, because that is resource area in Greenfield because of our bylaws. Travis and Kristen, if there was flooding from that stream, would that be bordering floodplain, or is that, I'm not sure how that works in terms of smaller
So
streams.
my understanding, I mean, I think if it were to qualify at all, it would have to be like a continuous amount of water from the bank of the stream all the way to where, because like I know there's a road that goes in between, and like that road would have to be flooded, like the whole area from the bank of that intermittent stream all the way to where you know, all the way across Chapman Street would have to be flooded. And it
Yeah,
would
and
have
this,
to be because of that rising water in the intermittent stream and not because the storm drains were discharging. So
It's a very tiny stream too.
yeah, and it's like a tiny little ditch.
I've got the format up on my screen, and so this is the bordering land subject to flood right down here, and Arch Street's up here. So it's technically in Zone C, which is defined as an area of minimal flooding. But again, that's only as related to,
Rivers.
rivers. It doesn't mean that it's not, because of impervious surface area and poor drainage. And it does sound like if you have water geysering out of storm drains, it's because the water table is really high and there's not sufficient drainage. So, or it's blocked or something's happening, something fishy is happening there. But I don't know. I mean, maybe DEP could help clarify on how to define that, but I was always under the impression that bordering land subject to flooding is this zone right here, as shown on the FEMA format. Which Art Street up here is not. Sharing.
So it does seem like, yeah, I saw that too, Stephanie. The question being, the map is from 1974. Have there been any updates since that? Does those designations now?
No, sometimes, I mean, I was just doing a report this week and I pulled up a FEMA format from 2023. It's random. It depends on how often FEMA updates a certain map panel. Some of them are old, some of them are not. Our town's pretty old, so they probably just haven't changed the urban part of the town in a while. But if they do, that means your flood insurance will go up. So it's a double-edged sword.
And also that one didn't even show like that intermittent stream over there. So they probably wouldn't even be looking at that area as
Well,
like potentially flooding from an intermittent stream.
You can also interpret it by the elevation that it gives on that map because, you know, sometimes that's more accurate if you just get, you know, your flood elevation from the FEMA format, and then you can look at your elevation and kind of come up with it that way. And that can be defensible. Pretty sure. This takes a little bit more work. Ty and Bond is a pretty good company. You said you're working with Ty and Bond, right, Stephanie?
The city, I believe, has some contract with Ty and Bond, or that Ty and Bond study was not initiated by me. We've been pretty much under construction for almost 5 years straight in this area. So yeah, they're coming out and testing our whatever they test, and then we've had smoke tests and all kinds of tests in this area. So I mean, it's definitely on the DPW's radar about what's going on in this area. I'm trying to say it, you know, we have significant rains to come.
Yeah.
And we can't even start to rebuild the damage of, you know, because if we're not designated in the flood zone now, obviously we have no insurance to cover any of the damage that the water continues to do to all of these homes. And so, you know, it's futile to start, you know, repairing everything when we know that the major problem that's causing it is not mitigated. And, you know, now the houses are becoming moldy, and, you know, there's a lot of other health concerns that are coming along with just not addressing it. So, you know, I don't know who protects, you know, the groundwater, or, you know, it being so that the water, we're at such a, like, at what, second level base?
Yeah, light blue.
Light blue on the map.
Just our little area, like
Just a little tiny spot where we're at the, you know, right at the base here, because everything gets drained. You know, you get it from Maine, you get it from Pleasant, you get it from Wells, and even Upper Chapman. Every single bit of the water that is, you know, slightly north in elevation, we get it pulled right down here like a bowl. So and part of the road is starting to also sink in up at the top by Pleasant, but I pointed it out to someone today. So thank you.
So thank you, Stephanie, for bringing your concerns to us. And we are all very saddened to hear that you have to deal with this. And, you know, we understand that it's very frustrating to not find the right place yet to take action. Sounds like the DPW and potentially even FEMA would be options. And of course, Emily, you have mentioned that the task force that you are on is a really good place to continue to get your message out and keep putting this information in front of people. I think at this point in the meeting, it's time to move on. And as this is our first time, I believe, having this type of a public comment or concerns brought to the commission as part of our agenda, I don't believe we've got any, or at least I'm not aware of any official closure of this particular section. So seeing a head shake from Travis, I'll suggest that perhaps it's time that we move on to our next item on our agenda, which is a discussion on the asphalt type for the 105 Mohawk Trail project. An RDA that was recently extended, and they're having trouble getting anyone who can do porous asphalt.
Hi.
Hey, Effie, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. I was going to ask if Mitch could bring up the plan that shows the parking area so everyone can kind of see what I want to refer to. But we have started some work. We do have the silt fence and the straw wattles up. Everything was ready to go, but I'm having a difficult time finding a contractor that deals with porous asphalt. So We have 3 parking spaces in the rear of the building that are designated, it shows on the map as proposed to be porous asphalt. And for like stormwater management and that. And I can't find any contractors that are qualified essentially to install it. No one is aware of it. You know, they're very uncertain. So if we look, it's the 3 that are in the back. And right behind those 3, there is a rain garden. So we had gotten past that we would have the rain garden there to capture and filter the runoff from the parking lot, which would reduce the amount of speed of the water, you know, entering the wetlands. And that wall is already built. That's in the back there. And we also have a dry well that is going to be in that back portion as well, that will collect the water from the building's gutters, allowing it to infiltrate, you know, slowly into the ground, kind of mimicking the absorption process of the natural water. So what my question is, would it be possible if we could do just the regular pavement back there as it would be the rest of the plans? Because I've spoken to our wetland scientist that helped us draw these plans when we did them. And any of the paving contractors that I've spoken to have said that the rain garden and the dry well are plenty for that small portion for where it was proposed to be porous asphalt. So that was my kind of what I wanted to bring up, because I can't move forward because I can't find anyone to do it. And, you know, what, if anything, would be my options.
Effie, did you have new stormwater drainage calculations drawn, assuming that that would not be porous pavement? Because that's the only calculation that I would lean on over contractors'
Okay,
opinion.
I have like delineation paperwork and stuff. I just have to get it out. I just don't know. I know we had to do all of the parameters when we originally got this passed to even build the wall. And that's the only thing that I have right now finding, because like I started, like I said, we put up this silt fence and stuff when Mitch came out, and then I just can't find anyone to do porous. So that's
The
my,
company that I work for has porous pavement in our driveway.
what is it?
We're in Amherst. I don't know who did it, but I mean,
Because
who did your design? What company did the plans? Like, they should be able to give you a recommendation, right? They wouldn't design something without having any idea
well,
who
I think at
implemented
the
it.
time, the porous was like suggested by the commission. So we had just said, okay, you know, if that's what you think is the best, we'll do it, not realizing that we wouldn't be able to figure out someone that could do it.
After hearing what we just heard from Stephanie, I'm so for porous pavement, especially in urban areas. But it is a high maintenance and it is expensive. You have to vacuum it. It's
Right, yeah, I know, and that's the thing, and a lot of the contractors don't even want to touch it because they're aware that it's different than the normal asphalt that they normally put down. And I just, because it is just the 3 spots there and not like the whole thing, that's why I wanted to just kind of ask.
Personally, my opinion is changing from porous pavement to actual pavement will change your entire stormwater calcs. And without seeing new stormwater calcs run to defend it, I'm not
So what
okay with
is,
that.
okay, I have a question for you. Is milling the same as porous? Would
I don't
milling,
know what, yeah, I think, yeah, that's still bituminous asphalt, right?
that's what they use on like the highways.
Yeah, that's still bituminous asphalt. So yeah, it's not porous. But I will also say, and I'm not an expert on this stuff. Again, I'm not a stormwater engineer, but at our office, we have 3 different kinds of porous pavement because we wanted to make our office like a living classroom kind of a thing. So we have these kind of concrete honeycombs with grass in the middle for one kind, and then porous asphalt for another kind, and then something brick, I think, like a
Like a
waffly brick thing. Yeah, I don't really know what's what in terms of stormwater calcs, but all 3 are technically porous. So
Okay. And just the other issue that they had brought up as well was because essentially if this were to get like deliveries and stuff, they would come in through the back. And they also said that, for delivery trucks and that the porous sometimes isn't as strong for that. And it would,
don't
like you said, if
know.
there's maintenance and then it would kind of break or sink, is what they said, because it's soft.
Our asphalt's we built our building in like 2009. It's totally fine. But maybe like that concrete honeycomb stuff that I was talking about with the grass in between the cells, that might be soft. That might not withstand
Okay.
heavy duty Mack
But
trucks.
even with the rain garden and the dry well, you don't think it would be enough to manage for those?
I'm not a stormwater engineer. I don't know.
Right.
I
'Cause
just need
everyone
to see calcs.
I've spoken to, they have said that. So that's why I'm just kind of,
Yeah,
because I
you spoke.
need to get this done, over the summer. Because
Yeah. Did you speak to an engineer though, or did you speak to a wetland scientist and a contractor?
I spoke to a wetland scientist who dealt with the engineers when they drew up the plans. And I spoke to the contractors, multiple. And just, no one will do it.
Was the dry well part of the original plans, or was it just the rain garden?
The dry well, I think, was actually added in the special conditions, because it's on the special conditions on the back. It's number 46. For the back edge of the roof shall have a rain gutter discharged to a dry well beneath the surface.
I don't know much about stormwater either, but maybe you could talk to an engineer or to your wetland scientist to see if there's anything else you could add that maybe would offset the calculations, and then you could put the regular asphalt there. I don't know.
Okay. Only because, like I said, I've tried, and I actually had someone pull out of the job because they weren't confident in using the porous. So that's why I kind of, tried to reach everyone that I can without really knowing what I can do to solve this situation, so I can just finish, So that's why I was like,
It sounds like they gave you an assertion that it would be sufficient, and what we need is some data to back that up.
okay. Can you tell me exactly what it is that we need? Or can someone just tell me which, what it is, so I can reach out and see if I even have it, I might have it already.
So usually when you hire an engineer, they run like a HydroCAD model, and that's how they determine how big to design stormwater management facilities. If you're having something like porous pavement, you can shrink your stormwater management facilities because you're compensating for infiltration with porous pavement. If you go and change that, your existing stormwater management facilities may not be sufficient to handle stormwater management. So if you want to go and change your impervious and pervious ratios, we just need to see that your calculations are going to be balanced, because right now, if you go and change something without seeing those calculations to defend it, we just don't know. And I'm a wetland scientist. I don't know how to run those calcs. I don't think a wetland scientist can give you the answer you need. I think it needs to be an engineer.
Okay, so what are the name of the calcs, just so when I reach out, I know, what exactly you're looking for?
Probably your stormwater management calculations, and I could probably find it in your old file. Usually it's like a HydroCAD model. I'm not an engineer, I'm not sure, but in your original filing, you probably submitted a really long, really boring report that you just look at like one page of, but it's probably like 200 pages. And, they run this huge long model, and at the end it's and pulls out a number. And that's what, the whole design of your stormwater management is based on.
Okay.
So if you change those ratios, you got to run a whole new model. And they might say that you need to change your stormwater design. Like maybe it needs to be bigger, or I don't know.
Okay. So if I essentially can't find anyone to do this, because that, like you said, it's a lot of maintenance. It's extremely costly for 3 spots back there.
Yep.
Because they also told me that the company has to shut down to make the asphalt, and they have to make 200 tons. And that's definitely not what is needed for this small section. No, I know what you need, but I'm just saying, you know, for that small section, everyone that has come out, they've all said, well, what is, there's no need for this, and they're not willing to even look at it or even do it.
Do you
So-
have to have deliveries on those spots, or could you like, I mean, maybe whoever did your original plan, could they put impervious surface area somewhere else that doesn't need to take as much weight, and you could do kind of that concrete honeycomb thing with the grass in between, or just straight grass or brick or whatever that's cheaper than installing porous pavement, and that will still offset your calcs. I don't know. I feel for you. I really do. You've had so many problems, Effie. I feel for you.
So
My
essentially-
understanding, Effie, can you clarify for me, please? My understanding was that you had added a dry well, but that was not part of one of the conditions that the commission had set forth in the beginning?
Oh, no, they had added that as a condition when they passed this. They added the dry well.
Gotcha, thank you.
So was that ever part of the calculations?
That's a good
I
question.
mean, I mean, that might help offset it, you know.
Okay. Right, because that isn't shown upon here. It was added afterwards.
Right.
So,
You know, not knowing enough, I guess I would try and talk to somebody about, like Kristen was saying, maybe doing some impervious somewhere else where you could, you know, make up those numbers
mhm,
and putting the asphalt there. Or trying to find out whether that dry well will help their numbers.
right. Okay, so I would look out, you said, for some type of engineer to do it if I can't figure out someone that will be willing to do it. And then have them check the HydroCAD model and see if with the dry well, if that'll offset anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if they'll suggest anything else, might help.
Who did you hire to do these original plans? Because they probably have all the old data, and it would be an easier lift for them.
Yeah, I worked with Mickey Marcus.
Oh.
He was in Amherst too, I think. So,
Yep. He is retired now. Do you remember who the engineer was?
honestly, I don't. I know we had SVE go out and do the all of the, not the plans, but like showing the levels.
Oh, yeah, they're like a survey company, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 105 Mohawk Trail. Maybe it's in the project folder.
I was just looking and I don't see, I mean, there's like the original NOI from 2010, and then there was the RDA from 2019, and I don't think in either one of them, like the plans are in there, but I don't think there's any stormwater calculations.
There isn't in the NOI. There should be. I mean, I wasn't on
No.
the commission back then, but there really should be for any
Yeah.
stormwater management. There should
I
be.
wasn't there either. The only thing it said was stormwater improvements. It said there are currently no stormwater on site, and therefore this will improve it. That's basically what it said.
Oh gosh. Nikki.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like if so I mean we've had a number of projects where they were asking to like amend what what was going on the site, and I think in general if it shows that it's not going to have any additional negative impacts to the resource area, then we've generally just approved that. But I mean, the other way to do it would be submitting a new RDA with new plans with, the non-impervious, basically like the same plan that you have now, but with, just regular pavement. And it would be like a whole new filing, which technically, unfortunately, it sounded like we should have done anyway. When you got the extension, we found out that we weren't supposed to do that, but we already did. So,
I have a question. If I
yeah.
were to do like the concrete honeycombs, like Kristen, you were saying, would that be okay? Instead of
It's still impervious, so I mean,
yeah. So anything essentially impervious would be okay.
Yeah, I guess I was trying to find like what the exact wording was just to like, make sure it would fit. It's not in the RDA special conditions. It must have been in the original NOI.
yeah, I'm looking at the 2010 NOI. There's gotta be something in here on stormwater. Oh my God, there isn't. Green garden plan detail.
Oh, I think so. I think that was from the original. Yeah, the 2010 NOI order of conditions. I haven't found exactly where it says. There's a special condition 30. The back edge of the roof shall have a rain gutter discharge to a dry well beneath the surface of the permeable pavement. But I haven't found one where it specifically says there must be permeable pavement. Kind of hard to read the conditions from this project because it's all capital, all capital letters.
I'm still confused. Who did the plans? There aren't even plans in the NOI.
There are plans with the RDA.
Oh, okay.
What, who suggested the permeable asphalt to
believe
start with?
It was someone on the Conservation Commission at the time.
And do you remember if it was because of stormwater? I mean, did they?
Yeah.
It wasn't
mean-
because of stormwater. I think their concern just in general was because we were not within the wetlands, but we were in a 100-foot buffer zone. So they were trying to put as many like precautionary things in place at the time.
So maybe the impervious was not even part of the calculations either, or
Right.
maybe there were no calculations then.
Right.
Can you do grass spaces, or does it even have to be as fancy as that kind of concrete?
Yeah, I mean,
honeycomb?
so you wouldn't mind if we kept it grass back there?
I don't know. It's just a thought. We're floating it by the commission here.
You mean like keeping it in
Part-
grass instead of eating it or anything?
I mean, it's
And
not
then you
gonna
just
filter any
Or-
pollutants from vehicles, but
Or gravel or something. That would help.
I mean, I'm not seeing plans. Did you see any plans in the RDA, Travis? That specifically describes that? I still can't even find it.
those
There's a
spots
plan
in
for
the
the rain gardens. And there's a plan for the building, but I don't see a plan for the land around it.
Right.
those spots in the back, they weren't. I mean, when you went before planning, they must have do you have to have some kind of handicap parking?
Yep, the handicap is in the front portion,
So that's in the front, okay.
front left.
So as long as that's flat, and certainly I was thinking if, if that was in the back, then the honeycomb or the, grass
Mhm.
probably would not be accessible, but,
Right.
Mitch, I don't know if you've had any time to look into this and have any insights that we're not finding right now.
No, nothing we haven't said. This is kind of off topic, but ordinance does say we can extend an RDA 1 year. I don't know if we
That's
have
in
the
the
power to.
ordinance?
That's in the ordinance, yeah.
That's so interesting, because I always thought you could not extend an RDA. That's
Yeah, I don't know
interesting.
if we have the power to have this in here, but it is in here.
Any permit, okay. Yeah, did you ask at the MACC, Travis?
I think I was going to, but I don't know if I got to that question.
mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I feel like if it was something permeable and not exactly permeable pavement, whether it was those um like concrete paver things or um just so you know what Kristen's talking about
Mhm.
with that.
Yep.
Like these things. Um
Yeah, those are good because it's not like with gravel, sometimes it spills over and then the next thing you know, you've got to refill it and it's migrating into areas that you didn't really want to be filling with gravel,
Yeah, I mean
but those are
people use
fragile,
these.
so. Or yeah, or like what's that black stuff called? I'm forgetting what that's called. That's really strong. That's actually stronger than the concrete.
But I don't know what that's called. I'm just looking at photos here. The title said concrete, but that wasn't concrete. So this is some random blog. I don't know what this is.
GeoGrid or something that GeoGrid stuff, that's good too.
Hmm. I mean, I guess I feel like if it's something permeable like that, that essentially fulfills the intent, it
Okay.
might not be specific to, permeable, porous pavement, I think is what it said, but
Yeah, I agree with that, especially if that was a comment from a commission and not from your stormwater engineers. Which
Right,
I'm
yeah,
I'm
that
still
was
not seeing any stormwater reports, so.
like I said, I think it was because we did have the wetlands like kind of close in the back, that they were just trying to add any other additional precautions that they could without realizing that I was gonna run into this issue, So,
Well, it's aptly timed after listening to our neighbor on Arch Street talk about
yeah.
drainage problems. The more impervious surface area we can get, the better.
All right, so I will take all of your comments and see what I can do. Like I said, because I know it's almost August and I need, they don't do pavement in the winter. So for the rest of it, I'm saying. So, I will see what I can do. I appreciate, you guys looking into it, because like I said, I'm not an expert either on this kind of stuff. So I figured I would bring it to your attention first and then, kind of go from there. All right.
Good
Thank
luck, Effie. Sorry,
right.
we're having
Yeah.
some drama
Sorry,
with
No
project.
problem. All right. And if I need anything, I will reach back out to Mitch and then we'll kind of go from there.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, up next, discussion around posting of meeting documents to the city's website. Currently, all of our documentation is available on request. However, it seems that most of the other boards do not post these things to the website. Open to discussion. I have thoughts.
Yeah, I guess my first question is to Mitch, and like how, like, do you have the ability to combine everything in like one combined PDF? And like, do you have any idea how long that would take?
That was sort
Um,
of, that was the capacity and who's going to be the one responsible for maintaining that web access, et cetera.
yeah, so there is a free way to just combine PDFs. I've never tried it with, it could be hundreds of pages with an NOI. So I've never tried
Mhm.
it with long documents. So it would depend, and then yeah, I would just put it on our website. I'll pull it up.
And I guess you could, um, like, we could just have it up until that meeting, and then like we wouldn't have to be hosting every meeting's packet for the rest of time, right? Like that's kind of what I'm imagining. Like it could be up and like through that meeting, and then it would get taken down, and then the next one would get put up, right? Or
So it'd
would we
probably just
keep
be
it like
another
this?
another column here.
Mm.
And my question is, when does something get posted? Because they change and there's additions and there's the photos and, the amount of material is a lot. And then, it seems like, if you're just doing it at the end, that's one thing. If you're having to not only maintain it for us, but compile it and then put it up on the website, it does seem like a lot of additional work.
Yeah, and one
Yeah,
other
especially
thing
with the
to consider
photos.
is especially as it relates to the photos. I don't know if the city is dealing with this, but I know at UMass we are in the process of having to make everything ADA compliant. So
Oh,
they
yeah.
everything has to be a reader has
Full
to be able to
description.
go over it and right. And so any photos, anything, those maps would have to have descriptions linked into them. Again, assuming that this is a thing that the city
Yeah.
is burdened with, or rather, excuse me, that's not the way that we for it, is paying attention to. So I know at UMass we're definitely dealing with that right now, and it's been exceptionally time consuming and challenging. Don't know if that's a barrier with the city or not.
Does anybody know what the practice is with the other?
What else can I ask?
It's just one board that does it currently?
I think
City
it's just
council does
city
it.
council.
City council, okay. And so that's minutes, which are not graphic based and plan based, I would imagine. So it's mostly just writing.
So is
They
this
do,
something people have access ahead of time or after?
yeah, ahead of time.
Ahead of time. Okay.
Yeah. And I guess I mean the main thing that I was thinking that it might make sense to have it there is like if someone, right now we have them like by request, but if someone found out about our meeting like Tuesday morning, they're not gonna have any time to request it before the
Right.
meeting. Since
Well,
the city
could it
hasn't paid for a full-time full-time
yeah.
agent for us.
Hmm.
Could it sort of be like you do on the agenda, sort of, this is what we've got, and then, subject to anything that might show up, 24 hours ahead of time or whatever. Post what this is what we have, and there might be more, but
That's a good idea.
it seems like trying to update it like every time something comes in, if it's
That'd be excessive.
And I mean, I imagine it would be posted like when the agenda, like just have to go up like 48 hours in advance of the meeting or whatever.
And again, I think the other piece is that if Mitch wants to do this, I certainly personally wouldn't say no, but I definitely think there are a lot of concerns, and I know capacity being what it is in a full-time position is already limited. So, Mitch, I mean, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, right now, well, the person who made the requests, I think, said that he assumed that there was just a document that I would send all of you, and that's not the case, It's a lot of documents, it's all in the drive. So it's not as
Right.
easy as just posting a document that already exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, the number of items. I think we can say flatly that it's a capacity issue in terms of turning everything into a PDF that's sent to us, because that would be hours and hours of Mitch's time that, Mitch is part-time and we're not paying him to do that. And then the other question is, are there ADA compliance that we would be required to be doing if it's posted publicly? And that would just add to the time. So it seems not feasible presently.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say it would be nice if we could, but I do agree that it seems like and especially like a lot of our meetings, no one even comes to them. Like, like,
Yeah.
I mean, if they were posted, maybe more people would, see something that they would want to comment on and come to. But I mean, if we're paying Mitch like hours of time every week when he only works part-time to do that, it might not be the best use of his time.
Yeah, it is. So what is the impetus behind the request? Just because somebody's interested and they think it would be, what's the impetus?
Yeah, I think he's just interested in a particular project.
And I think he said for, you know, just making things more accessible to the public in general, too.
He sees it on our list of active orders and wasn't sure if there was something we'd be talking about, but it's just there as an active order.
I see.
Yeah. I suppose all that could be kind of confusing to people who don't attend a lot of meetings, or that everything's listed and they're like, oh, maybe they're going to discuss it all. I mean, maybe something like that is only sent to us, and the public sees the agenda, and I don't know, not a list of all the open things, unless they have to.
Or we could add wording to the agenda that says, like, these are projects with active permits, and there may or may not be, discussion on these items at the meeting or something like that.
That'd be good to clarify if
Yeah,
people are wondering what they are.
Or even just, that there is usually no discussion unless
Yeah.
it's on the agenda, or
So it sounds like maybe the compromise would be some sort of brief couple of lines stating what Erica just said. Also, probably with the caveat that Travis, you tend to, that we announce as the beginning of this thing is the 24 hours, anything not reasonably,
right,
whatever the language is.
anticipated, yeah.
Yeah, and I the reason why I bring that up is I can envision a time where things might get unruly if people didn't understand that there was a very specific way that things were going to be dealt with, that this is what's on the agenda and nothing outside of the agenda is going to be addressed outside of comment.
Yeah, and I think in general with the like things not anticipated within 24 hours, or 48 hours, I think in general it's best practice, like even if something comes up during that time, it's usually if it's something that we have to act on, it's probably better to add it to the next agenda and then act on it, unless it's like urgent, like this needs to be done right now. Yeah. Otherwise, I think it's generally better to like bring it up, but then say, oh, we'll add it to the next agenda. And that way the public knows that we will be voting on something.
Again, I bring Mitch, I come back to you knowing that you're going to be the person generally who's going to have to deal with posting of any of this sort of information. Is the compromise that Erica and Emily have suggested something that would be feasible for you?
Yeah, no, that works.
Okay,
Seems like
great.
Another thing just for us to keep in mind if people have questions about why it seemed like a burden for us to be able to provide this service. The number of requests that we get is very low. And if we had to look at the time that it would require for someone to do this, then we would have to go, I think we would need to look at the budget that's allocated towards our commission, because Mitch is already fully working at capacity. So it would be a financial burden, I think, or to hire someone else or to get someone's work to do that. So just to quantify the reasons that we're thinking that it's beyond our capacity.
Any further questions, concerns around posting of the documents? I see head shakes. So moving on. Looks like next up is the update from Travis on the conservation area trail map drafts.
Yeah, I don't know if I need to go through them all again, but I did, they're on the drive, the updated drafts. And essentially all I did was change the things that we talked about last time, which was like adding the stream names, which I had already done, but I had the labels turned off when I made the maps the last time. So I just had to turn the labels back on. And there was some other minor thing that I changed too, that I wrote down somewhere. Stream label. Oh, I added the wetland to the legend so that people know what the wetlands are on the map. Now wetlands are in the legend too. So essentially it's the same thing we saw last time, just with those additions. So I would say it would be a good thing if we could get them posted on our website so people can see them. And I don't know if, there's the color versions and there's the black and white versions. I don't know if we need to post them both, or have like color maps and then maybe the black and white ones say like black and white printing friendly maps or something like that. Or maybe we should combine both the color and black and white for each site into one PDF. I don't know. I don't know the best way to do that, but yeah, those are all available. And the only other thing that we need to decide really, unless anyone has any other comments, is for the Griswold map, if we want to do the map that has like the numbered spots on it, even though some of those numbers don't exist anymore, or if we want to leave those off since some of them don't exist anymore. I don't know. I have versions, so
I
we can
love
do either
those.
way.
Nobody pays attention, but because you kind of have to like log into a website and we don't have pamphlets anymore that correspond to what all that stuff is. Or is there a QR code or were we gonna do that? But I loved that. I thought that stuff was so cool.
Travis, would it be
I
possible
like them.
to is the text that is associated with them something that could be compiled so that the map itself could give the little tour, like,
Yeah, we have a PDF of that from like the old maps of that site. So I think that could be something Mitch could just like combine those two,
Yeah.
be like a front and a back, 2 pages PDF. Yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense since, we talked about like maybe redoing the numbers or redoing some things, but we haven't done that yet. So I feel like it
Yeah.
makes sense to use the numbers as is for now.
By the way, kind of off topic, but I was just there yesterday, and there's like a really big tree clearing area about 100 feet from the trail. I don't know what's going on out there, but significant.
Is it on the part that crosses through private land?
It must be. I was just looking on Mass Mapper right now trying to figure it out because I forgot to dig into it anymore, but it must be.
Part of it's just a trail easement, right?
I don't even think it's an easement. It's just like they let people go through there.
Handshake.
Yeah. It's not illegal. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a pretty significant clear cut. I wonder what they're building.
Is it
Is
to
it
the
actually, it's actually off
southwest?
the property?
It must be off property. It can't possibly, nobody would go onto the conservation land, but it's 100 feet from the trail. So it's close enough that you can see it from the trail. And I just like walked over and took a picture of it from the edge, and it's like a pretty good sized clearing. So something's going on. It's gonna be something. Probably a solar. It looks like a huge clearing.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say I think if it's to the southwest of the property, I think there was a solar project in that area.
oh, that it makes sense. Yeah. It's kind of by the highway. It's, when you first start
Yeah.
walking around the loopy part counterclockwise and you can hear the highway, it's over there.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. I know we're almost done with our agenda, but could I request like a 3-minute recess real quick? Because I know we have one more thing to talk about, and I don't know how long it's gonna take, but 3
Yes,
minutes.
Yeah.
and time you.
I know. I have to use the ladies' room too. So
Okay.
go break.
I didn't time myself, but I think that should have been about 3 minutes.
That's okay. All good. So trail maps. Everybody happy with the determination of that? And they look great. Travis, thank you.
Thanks.
Travis, we mentioned those at the task force meeting.
Hmm.
And just to hit on that, I'm supposed to report in about that periodically as we meet. I don't think it's on the agenda tonight. If we can add it, I'd be happy to give a little report, or I can do that next time if we want to add it to the next agenda.
Do you want to knock out the last agenda item and then give you a report? Does that sound okay?
It's fine by me.
Great. So the last thing on the agenda is Oak Hill Road. Mitch, apparently you met with Jeff. You want to talk about that a little bit? How that went?
I did, yeah. So I'll show a picture. Yeah, he was going to send me his plans. He didn't do that. I don't think he's here now. But his plan was he drew this white line. I don't think this is quite accurate. I think it's bigger than this, but he had plans to plant like 40 trees in this area. He said he could do it in the next month or two.
That
Has he given? Sorry.
Is this the area where the trees were cut?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it looks like the car is the road, right? You see what I'm saying? And that white line looks like it's not along actual Oak Hill Road. So are those? Yeah. So
This
that
is
white
the
line is
sliver.
like on the driveway.
I can see the stumps now.
Yeah.
So the white line, does it run across the field just in the direction that it's pointing?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So it'd be 40 trees within that area.
Yeah, that's his
Did
that's
he-
his plan.
Did he give you any like a list, or did you give him a list of what we would like to see planted there? Or
He mentioned some, yeah, he was gonna send me that, but I haven't received it. So I can't say for sure.
Can we
He
require
marked all
him?
good stuff.
Yeah, can we like ask him to make sure that it's approved before he just goes ahead and
yeah,
plant?
yeah, I don't want to see 40 Norway maples there, you know.
Right, and what did he cut down and what's in the surrounding area aside from the
There's-
obvious Norway maples?
So there's a lot of pine and oak. And there's a fair amount. I mean, this is right down the road from where I am. I'm out here often. So he took a lot of pine that came down. There's some oak that came down, and there was some maple. Might have been red maple, might have been sugar maple.
And red oak, maybe? Red oak and eastern white pine?
I think it was mostly pine.
Okay. Well, those are both keystone species, so
I'm trying to reconcile that picture with the map of where,
Yeah, the clearing
yeah,
that
that
was
one.
saw.
Yeah, so that picture was taken from this road. So it's like the line is this
But where's that
from here.
car? So that car is in the where the trees are?
Yeah, there's a road here.
Yeah.
Oh, there is a
There's
road.
an-
Yes.
oh, but it's not shaded anymore because he cleared up to beyond that black line.
I think this is just an old ortho.
Well, in the surrounding area has that street is shaded.
But it seems he cut the trees all the way to the road.
You cut these, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what we can't do much about what's not in our jurisdiction, but
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
but
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would just, I mean, I definitely want to see what his plan is, and also, like they need to be native trees, whatever he's planting. Because I know one time he came and he said, "Oh, I'll plant some fruit trees,"
yeah,
but that's not. I mean, maybe if he plants, what's that native?
Pawpaw.
Emily.
Pawpaw. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna just plant all pawpaws, but
Also, can we ask him to like stake it out and be approved by the agent or something so that we know that he's not going above or below what's needed?
I mean, if he wants to plant more area, that's fine. We just need to make sure that he's at least planting in the area that we're,
Yeah, the
that's.
line
Be
is
generous, Emily.
the line is less. I think the line is more like this.
So my other question around that photo that you showed, that most recent photo with the white line, couldn't help but notice some Oriental bittersweet in there.
Ugh.
So I don't know if that's is that something that like we can say anything about, like management of invasive species?
It
God
does
knows what to
love
do with it.
disturbed areas.
Sure does. And
I
it's
mean,
kind of all
yeah,
over the place.
that definitely could be like, I mean, we're like this is like an enforcement. We haven't done an enforcement order, but as part of remediation for the issue, we could ask for invasive removal. I mean, we could ask for, whatever we think needs to be done to remediate the issue. And if cutting down all those trees has helped, invasives, then maybe there needs to be some work on invasive management too.
Well, it would
I
be in
mean,
his own best interest because that stuff's just going to kill any tree he plants. So,
yeah.
Yeah, can we require
yeah.
any kind of replacement of failed trees?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there has to
I
be a
mean,
certain
that
number of
seems like it
survivorship.
would need to be in an enforcement, otherwise he's just gonna blow us
Yeah.
off.
I know. I was almost gonna say, like, I think maybe at our meeting right now we should maybe issue an enforcement order. Like, I mean, he said he was gonna be here. He said he was gonna submit a plan. He
Yeah, I
didn't
mean, like
submit a
this
plan.
was the deadline for a plan.
Yeah.
You know how I
And we
feel.
didn't.
Yeah.
I think I'm fine at this point, personally, if we want to issue an enforcement order, And then we can specify all these things that we're talking about right now. Native trees must be at least the area, in the riverfront area that where the trees were cut.
I think the area should be staked
Survivorship
out and
and stuff.
approved,
Yeah,
survivorship.
must be
Yeah.
approved prior to planting.
And I think that, we should set a deadline on the plan and the preparation of the plan and the implementation of the plan, because it's otherwise gonna slip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And
Yeah,
include some
survivability.
include some of the invasive species.
Yeah, the bittersweet
That work
especially.
on that.
I didn't notice anything else in particular. And
Oh God, that stuff's awful.
the only other invasive that I see in this general vicinity that is problematic is multifloral rose.
They go hand in hand.
We sure do. But a caveat to the invasive species management is that is herbicides. We have to have something in there that limits or otherwise, limits what herbicide gets used so that they're not out there blasting glyphosate all over the place or who knows what all else.
We could ask for an invasive species management plan to be submitted and approved by the commission or the agent.
Yeah.
Or it could be, any removal, and if you're going to start using herbicides, you need to come before us and explain them. But if you
Yeah.
just want to yank them out, that's fine. But
I mean, good luck.
And the time
I've
to
been
do it
fighting that
before
battle for years.
before they
Yeah.
fruit though, this is the time. If they're that young, he should get out there. Why doesn't he just like mow it right now and then plant? Well, I can't tell him what to do, but
Well, yeah, we can. I mean, joking aside, if mowing now is part of the plan in order to mitigate spread of invasive species, then we can put that in there, can we not?
Yeah.
Again, it seems like all this stuff is in his own best interest so that whatever he has survives. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
in the long run.
he wanted no trees there, so
Well, yeah,
I don't know if that is
I
in
mean,
his best interest.
yeah.
Mitch, maybe could you kind of maybe just like walk us through step by step what we need in this? So I guess that first page is basically things that we've talked about already.
Yeah, it's just
we know the
location,
property owner, the
activity.
extent and type of activity was the trees being cut down.
Then findings.
and so is that where we would say he's not an applicant. The landowner, I guess, must come before the commission with a plan by X date.
Is he the landowner?
Yep. I think that's the
Yeah.
order.
He's one of the landowners, I believe.
Okay.
So I think this is our finding.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Maybe.
So
Yeah.
In violation of an issue.
Well, we
no,
didn't
I
approve
think it would
anything.
be hold on,
Without
scroll-
approval of the issuing authority, that first check there, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like separated.
Okay. And then what we're asking him to do,
Yeah.
Would be
Okay.
the third one,
restoration plan.
And then the next page it says for the following. Is that
On or before for the following.
and that's where we would describe what needs to be in the restoration plan, I think.
and you could have a separate page for like a number of
longer
bullets.
comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we want to set a date for a proposal? Like the species number.
Yeah. Um, for the whole plan, I think.
Yeah, for like a date for the plan proposal and a date for the plan implementation. Like a deadline.
Eh, Um, I don't know if there's a spot to do that on this form
No,
because
you
I
can
think
you can take a second page and just write it all out.
oh, I see, I see.
It's like special condition.
Oh, where it said, yeah, like for whatever, excuse me, like for whatever that could be part of the rest. Yeah, the explanation.
The
Um,
implementation just be part of the plan we approve. We approve of the date that he proposes.
yeah, but I think we could, like on the next page, if you scroll down where it says like for the following, I think that's where we put everything we want in the restoration plan. And one of those things could be that the implementation that in the plan
Okay.
it must state that it will be implemented prior to whatever date or whatever.
And it says
Yeah,
that the restoration shall be completed in accordance with the timetable established by the issuing authority. So that's us.
Mhm.
yeah, and then
Okay.
under like a separate sheet, we could say on or before X
Yeah.
date,
Yeah.
the landowner shall present to the commission a plan that whatever we say, and then on or before X date, this plan shall be implemented. And I would think that that would be before the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mitch, can you remind me of his name?
Jeff Brusco.
Jeff Brusco. Um, I'm gonna make a motion to issue an enforcement order against Jeff Brusco for the cutting of trees in riverfront area on Oak Hill Road, parcel R20-14.
I will second that.
Seconded. Are there any further questions, comments?
So I guess we just need to determine what date, like what conditions do we want on this, I
Mhm.
guess.
What's a reasonable, given that it's the end of July, what's a reasonable date to respect or to expect a plan returned? Do we give him till the next meeting?
I was gonna say, wasn't he supposed to have a plan by this meeting? I mean, so
The only thing I'll add though is that his plan might not have been what we want it to be. So
Yeah,
I mean, I would say
yeah.
maybe like end of August or like our second meeting in August.
yeah, I was
That would give
thinking
him
like
almost
Yeah,
a
give
month.
them a month.
Okay, yeah.
And that puts us, so that's, let's see.
yeah, I think these conditions would go under the order. Because these are like special conditions. And do we need to notify DEP because this is riverfront? Or is this only riverfront under the ordinance?
No, I think this
Perennial.
was a perennial.
Okay, so then we need to make sure copies are simultaneously being sent to Mass DEP Western Region Division of Wetlands and Waterways. Not just us.
Yeah, they get a copy.
Okay,
Do
so
we need to see square footages on these plans, or are we just like, we're okay with just a species list and a number, a count, and that's it? Like, do we just want to see like a list of plants or a list of tree species? Do we want to see where they come from? Do we want to require a photograph of the receipt from the nursery, like that kind of stuff?
I think.
I mean, it
proof
sounds
is perfect,
crazy, but
Yes. Yeah,
I do
I
this
think
for a
that's,
living. I
Mhm.
yeah.
always
I think-
get those in orders, so it's
I
not
I
think
think proof
unusual.
of purchase makes sense. You know, something, some sort of language around distribution throughout the area of question so that he's not just jamming them all in and calling it done.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true. Yep.
And then the survivorship
Yeah,
Yep.
replacement.
Do we
As
want to
well.
do like 2-year post installation reporting?
Given the deer pressure out here, more than 2 years, can we do that?
Depending on what he plants and how fast it grows. I mean, if it's
Mhm.
if it's slow, we want to monitor it longer because good chance it's going to get killed.
Yeah, and you know, if he plants larger material, I mean, if he has like, 6-inch DBH saplings, they're going to be more hardy than if he has plugs, right? I don't know if we can
I was
mandate
gonna
what
say,
he
yeah.
proposes, but we can just say you got to submit a plan and we can either deny it or okay it. But
Yeah.
that's something to consider. If he plants a bunch of rinky dink little, like the stuff you get for free on Arbor Day. I don't know. That might not, and maybe he wants to like tag it so it's easy to identify what was installed and what's a pioneer when he goes out and does his survivorship stuff. Like stuff like that we should just think about when we're approving his plan, because we may want to comment on those things.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not we'll accept pioneers in replacement of.
That came up in another project, right?
Yep. The, down
Can't remember
by
what street that was on, but that's exactly what happened.
Greenfield
We had
Street.
other trees come in and,
Right. Right.
I will say that when I do that, usually commissions and DEP don't accept that as credit. It's
Okay.
great, it's gravy, but it doesn't count. I mean, you're on the hook for a certain number of things. That's what you're on the hook for.
yeah.
But
That's a
maybe,
good
yeah,
question.
okay, good to know.
That's a good question, though.
So I guess we need to figure out what exactly we're saying in this.
Okay, and what's
area, so-
all right, so our date for the plan proposal is when? August something?
I guess August
13th.
27th would be our second meeting.
And then implementation by September 24th, or I guess it doesn't have to be a Tuesday.
Mm.
Or
Does it need to be so
October.
early in the fall? It might be a little hard. It might be actually a little hard to source that many trees that quickly.
You're right. It does. Sometimes nurseries can take 2 months to get material. So you're right.
And it's late in the season too, so ordering things won't be the
Yep.
easiest.
So November.
To that end, I was wondering if it would make sense to bump the plan up to the meeting prior to that.
I was okay with that. I was thinking 2 meetings from now would be sufficient, but
Two meetings from now is August 27th.
oh, is it
Yeah.
really? Jeez,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking
summer
13th.
go. So depressing.
But how late is he going to end up planting? I mean, is it going to be too close to winter and
You
everything's
can
going to?
plant later, Kristen. We've done planting with the Greenfield Tree Committee into October and
Sure.
others.
What about November? Like the early November, like should we say like November 15th?
That seems good because then it's going to be definitely getting into yeah, I think that would be good.
Yeah, my only concern with that is that and I would like to have this be one of the conditions, is that if he's going to implement mowing or some other invasive species mitigation, that needs to be done very soon before that bittersweet has
Yeah.
violence.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I guess all of those things combined, the time it's going to take to get the material, the weed management issues, I would strongly encourage the 13th as the date that he has to have that plan to us.
Yeah.
I think that I think that would be my preference personally. And then
that's 3 weeks from now. Just so like
right.
it's not
Right.
like it's
Right.
only
So-
2 weeks
It's
from now.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Also, just the phrasing in the form says we're establishing a timeline. So we're not just saying this is the end when it all has to be done. We can say, you need to be taken care of. If we're asking him to take care of the invasives, it should be done during the growth period where they're going to be establishing themselves, not in November.
Right.
Mm.
are we asking him to provide an invasives control plan as well? Or incorporate that into the plan that we ask for?
I think that it could say including an invasive control plan. Yeah. So August 13th is when he needs the plan done by. November 15th. Are we saying he needs to be done with
Yeah.
all the plantings by then?
Deadline. Yeah.
Okay.
And we should have like a written notification that it has been finished with photo pages and a summary of what was done and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that our agent.
The
or
receipts and
commission-
stuff that you were talking about.
Right.
Yeah. Proof
Would-
of
would-
purchase.
Would this be a type of action that would at some point end with a certificate of compliance?
That's a good question. I think we lift an order once
I think
it's
you just,
done.
yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna say, I think.
Yeah, it's not a
So this-
COC, but what is it? Like, what is there like a legal paperwork or is it just like you close an or open enforcement?
I think you close it. Yeah, I think
You
that's
can vote to
There's no
release it.
paperwork.
MACC mentioned a COC, and I did that once, and Mark was like, "Why?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"MSDC said so," and he's like, "Oh, okay."
I love
So
Mark.
what, I mean, would the enforcement be open for 2 or 5 years or whatever? I mean, depending on how long we want to, we want to see survivorship or.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I think it's recorded, so it's on the deed. So, I mean, it's like, if you ever wanted to sell his house, there's an open enforcement order, it's gotta be squashed. Or like, it's like attached to the deed, which I'm sure that that's in the language, right? That it gets recorded at the Franklin County Registry of Deeds.
think so. I don't know if that's us that records that or
No, the
if they have
property
to.
owner should, but it's like, that's one of the things we should require in order to lift it.
I don't think it gets recorded.
Really?
Enforcement
Yeah.
Yeah,
orders don't?
I thought those emergency orders were attached, but
Oh, okay. I
I don't know.
actually don't know. So I get, because it's just orders of conditions.
Or those
and
conditions are
certificate-
open.
No, enforcement orders aren't recorded. Okay. Huh.
Well,
What's-
wasn't there another project where they were going to be selling the house and there was an enforcement order and
That's right, there was, and they had to put the rock out there to like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't remember the address, but yeah, I'm just curious now, what's the legal ramifications for not following through with enforcement orders then if it's not recorded?
Fines, right? I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
Punished by a fine of not more than $25,000 or by imprisonment for not more than 2 years.
I also had a project where they had an enforcement order and they were selling their house and they needed to do the restoration plan really quick before they could sell their house. They was like stuck. I don't know why I thought that, but
We don't have a fine book though.
Not yet.
I think we'd either
Well,
bring it up
under
to
our
DEP or
under our
in the court.
ordinance, a police officer can write a fine for us as well.
Yeah, it said shall be subject to a civil penalty. Would that be what that would
Yeah,
be?
yeah, a police officer can write that fine for us if
Okay.
we convince them to do it, I guess.
I mean, obviously we don't want that to go,
No,
you know,
no.
we're
Yeah.
just thinking about how this works.
okay, so we got our dates for the plan preparation and our date for the implementation. Did we talk about survivorship and invasive species yet in
We haven't
detail?
decided what the term would be, whether it be 3 years or 5 years.
I think 3 years seems reasonable. I'm, of course, bear in mind, I'm thinking about this within the framework of a fruit tree. So by the time 3 years hits, we're generally seeing a crop. So, but it seems like if it survived the deer and a drought and a flood and an early or late spring freeze, all of those things tend to happen relatively 1 year to the next. After 3 years, if it survived all of that, I would say that that's probably a good indication of future longevity.
I think 2 is usually the standard, at least for like wetlands replication.
It is 2 or
Yeah.
3 for wetlands replication. I've seen 3 a lot, especially out of Amherst. But I think it will depend on the size of the
Yeah, what he puts
saplings
in.
that he's using, and we don't know until he shows us his plan. So,
Yeah.
Well,
And-
I mean, we can just request, his
We can say a
monitoring plans,
minimum.
and then
Saplings,
approve
not
that.
seedlings. Yeah.
yeah, or we could yeah, I like that.
And in terms of the actual constitution of the species themselves, are we giving it a blanket mix of soft and hard native species? Or is there I know in the past, other projects, there have been like specific lists that are approved by various agencies.
Yeah, I think in the past we've used that Dow and Colina list, which is like the native to the county list. Personally, my preference is that he replaces what he took down in terms of the native species. Like Erica said, if there were Norway maples, who cares? But what's in the surrounding area? If it's red oak and eastern white pine, I don't know. That's my preference, not just other native species that maybe not necessarily in that.
How about giving
particular
priority to the species present or that were removed, since
Yep.
that's the whole issue here. I'd be open to him picking species as well that are adapted, climate adapted. But oak is actually on that list, so there you go.
And it's a keystone species, so
Mhm.
So species timeline, invasive management. I would again encourage that we include some sort of a line that says that that needs to be implemented before seed
The
set.
present growing period.
Yep. Was that everything that we were going to include in there?
There's one more thing.
I feel like I was forgetting something too.
I think about
What was,
delineating.
Oh,
yeah, I was just gonna say,
survivorship. Yeah, area and replacement of loss. But we did that. the
yeah,
2
do we want to
years.
say 75%? That's usually what with wetland replication areas, that's usually the standard. If your survivorship goes below 75%, you have to replace it. Or we could just leave it blank and let him come up with a plan and present that to us. But
Maybe we can say that one of the components should be the replacement of mortality.
yeah, and not leave a percentage. Or we could make it 90% because
right.
he took down 100%,
I think he took down around 30 and he was planning 40.
Oh, that's good.
So even
Okay.
if some died.
So that's realistic
What's-
because you are going to lose some.
Well,
Mitch, did you
75% would be 30 trees, right? I mean,
Yeah.
That's true. You're good at math in your head. Mitch, did you count them? Or I'm so bad at math in my head. I have to do it on paper. Did you count them or was that an estimate that he shared with you?
No, I counted the stumps.
Okay.
Great.
Kristen, that's only because it was 40 and that, you can divide that by 4.
I'm
Yeah.
terrible
Like a
with mental
quarter.
math.
Erica, just own it.
I'm like 12 plus 12. I'm like everything on my calculator. I'm so bad with mental math. Here, I have my calculator right next to me. I use it 3 times today. Oh, whose dog is that?
Oh, that's me.
Aw.
Okay, so what do we, Mitch, sorry, or Travis?
Sorry, I was just gonna say the other thing that we had mentioned was, I think we could say that his plan shall include a that the agent or commission will inspect the area where the tree,
Oh,
has to
yeah.
approve the area in person of where the trees will be planted prior to the planting. So,
Do we-
we could word it better than that, but you know what I mean.
Are we worried about planting a bunch of saplings at the base of tree stumps that haven't been stumped? You know what I
In
mean?
terms of like replant disease?
Or just that there's like, a huge tree stump right next, like there's gonna be, I don't know, not a lot of loose soil for a new sapling to become established because there's a big tree stump there.
Yeah.
Is that an issue? Liz, you would know.
Yeah, I guess my only concern with replanting into a situation like that is if there had been disease issues. And given that the trees weren't sick when he took them down, I would think that really over time, what would happen is that stump would provide, as it breaks down, provide nutrients to the growing tree, not
Okay.
detract from it. Something to keep in mind is that these are forest trees. So if they become established anyway in their natural setting, they would be doing so in proximity to a stump or a trunk, really. And so because there is no overarching canopy, these trees are going to have a better chance of establishment than they would if they were in their own natural habitat.
Did they take advantage of the mycorrhizal communities as well of the roots?
So I would think over time that they would, yes, because those communities are there that had been associated with the trees before.
That's another argument in favor of the same species.
Yeah, because they're going to be better suited. And that's also an argument for being careful about where you get them in terms of sourcing plant material. I'm not
There's
sure.
so much we don't know yet about what happens underground.
Yeah.
Trying really hard to not nerd out right now. So, so the argument for the native species because of the associations that are there, I think is strong. I'm not worried about replanting in proximity to other stumps. We can suggest that he not plunk one right next to the other. There's enough space in between the trees that were removed that there's the ability to do that. Yeah.
I think another thing we should ask for is a map or drawing outlining where things are going to be planted within that area. Because I mean, it'd be easy to say, oh, I'll plant 40 trees in this area, but like where? Like, are they going to be evenly spaced, or are they going to be,
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed. Yeah, so like that
I mean,
would
it could
part
just
of
be
the
a
plan.
sketch, even like give us an idea.
With little X's on them. I think we've had other maps that just have little
Yeah.
X's,
Yeah.
like this is where I'm putting this.
Mitch, is there anything else we need that you can think of?
No, I think that's it.
Guess we still just have to vote on it then.
Yes. So vote to approve the the words are failing me at this point.
Issue an enforcement order?
Yes. Vote to approve issuing the enforcement. Thank you, Travis. Emily.
Aye.
Kristen.
Aye.
Erica.
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. The vote passes unanimously.
All right.
Quick update, Emily.
I'll be brief. We met for the second time on the 22nd of July, the Sustainable Greenfield Task Force Implementation Commission or Committee. What we did was we worked on figuring out what our activities will be. Jonah is going to create a description of the task force and disseminate it. We currently have 4 members. We talked about having more and settled on having a group of 5 voting members to leave 1 position open because we don't currently have someone from the rec committee or commission. And then also open it to members of the public. And we didn't set a maximum. but the members of the public would be non-voting members, but who could participate. And there was one person there who was interested and will submit a letter of interest. The main thing that we did was to review an objective list that is from the open space plan for the city. And the four of us went through and just did informal rankings of top priority, secondary, and then ones that we have personal interest in seeing happen, but it might be longer term or lower priority. And from those, we came up with a group of three, sort of two top priorities, and then a broader group of secondary priorities. This list, we are going to work on creating, sort of a formal list from those objectives. And we would like to share them with the other related commissions, maybe after the next meeting when we've gotten to approve it. Top priorities related to identifying priority sensitive areas for conservation and acquisition. And that, what I mentioned earlier, review of storm flow and needs and issues in the city in relating to flooding. And some secondary goals included, we sort of looked at those as things that might be opportunistic. For example, there's this grant opportunity that the FERCog has applied for relating to river corridors and conservation and zoning. So since that's happening, that might be something that we could give effort to, and it's on the list. Another aspect of what we thought about was where there are items that aren't something that we can necessarily affect on our own, but we could provide accountability to see that they're happening. For example, ADA compliance on existing parks. We could compile some information or request information from the rec group to help make sure that movement will be made forward on those things, or at least to have more transparency. And I think those were the main things. We talked about your maps, Travis. So that was one of the items of interest in the open space plan, was just having more information about the existing plans. We talked about having different reasons of interest for conservation. Let's see, anything else? There were some announcements about events. It's really late, so I won't go into all of that, but I'd be happy to share that with Mitch, and then maybe we can just share that by email with everybody. We're going to be continuing to engage the other commissions. One of the members was going to attend an Ag Commission meeting to perhaps engage them in doing or finding out information about agricultural land in the city. So that's about it.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I'm like a very focused group. You got a lot done in like just 2 meetings.
Yeah. I think it's working out pretty well so far, and we're trying not to bite off more than we can chew. And there's so much to do, like really had to narrow it down. But I'll be glad to have that list to share with you folks, and maybe we can identify some items, because there definitely were pieces that felt like, oh yeah, that's what we were interested in seeing, like, areas that we would want to have more conservation area, or the ridge is an area that's come up a lot in terms of parcels that might come into our health. One of the items that I championed was fostering more communication between involved officials and committees when conservation or acquisition happens. So we talked about maybe having checklists or formal processes, because of some of the things that we've talked about here, where the way that property came into the town holding, we might not have been as happy with. So this seems like a really good opportunity for us to have some say about making some kinds of formal procedures that need to be followed so that we can have there be a fair and equitable process.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we talked about there's lots of policies and then nobody follows them. So thinking about how we can make sure that they're remembered and, kept, actually done. So, but it seemed like a good opportunity at the minimum.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember Travis, you and Fletcher were talking about those checklists when a property is acquired and, at least notifications to other
Yeah.
boards and agencies. So that's great.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I'm familiar with at least one checklist that's typical. When land is conserved, often, when you get land conserved, that's a farm through the APR process, you actually are eligible for more funding from the state if there's a checklist in place that says, okay, if land's being developed, then, it has to go to the Conservation Commission as well, or, so it's possible.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
So,
Sparing 7 more minutes of your evening.
so we're at the end of our itemized agenda, and I would like to say, unless anybody else has any burning points that they need to get across, that our next meeting will be August 13th at 6:30. And would anybody care to
Motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Already turned on all my lights. I gotta wake up at 4 a.m. So motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
Wonderful. Vote. Emily,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Travis.
And I also want to let you know that I probably am not going to make it to the next meeting. Just so you know, I'm going to be traveling.
Travel safe.
Travel safe. Erica.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Adjourned.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Travel safe,
Good night,
Travis.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.